Today on Garage Noise, we'll talk about the tools and techniques I use to repair larger dents. Now, this information is going to help you work more efficiently and get better results on your repair. I found that glue pulling can be a very effective and efficient way to removing a dent. So I went ahead and purchased some tools from Keco Tools. We've got some super tabs here, a slide hammer, and a K-bar. Previously, I had purchased a kit off Amazon that was very inexpensive, and it worked well for what it was. It was good for home use, but it just did not hold up in the environment I'm using it in. I found that you want to use some quality glue in order to get the best results. This is the glue I use. I find it works very well, and I'll leave links to all the tools and products I use in the description. This is a super tab kit, and these are great because they cover a large surface area and they really have a lot of pulling power. So let's go ahead and pull this dent out with these tabs. To start, I'll place a generous portion of glue on this tab, and then I'll place it in the low section of the dent. Now, I don't want to press it too hard into the dent because that'll push the glue out. We want a nice thick layer of glue between the tab and the metal. The first tab pulled out the front section of this dent. We're going to place the tab right behind it in the rest of the dent, and we'll pull that out. Now, I'm not removing the first tab because I may need that later on to do some more pulling. The glue tabs are really making quick work of these larger dents, so we'll continue to glue pull. I'll place smaller tabs in smaller dents. We'll remove those, and then we'll take a look at the finished product. The larger dents are now removed, and this quarter panel is really starting to take shape. We still have some smaller dents and waves that we need to remove. We'll use some different style tools for that. But first, I want to sand over this with some 80 grit sandpaper on my orbital sander. Now I'm going to hold this sander flat against the panel as I sand it. This is going to show us all our high and low areas. So our low areas are going to have black paint in them, and then our high areas we're going to break through into bare metal. So you can see the low areas there, and all the areas that I broke through into bare metal, those are high areas. So what I'll need to do, this is going to set me up for the G90E where I can grind those low areas, just those low areas, so I know where I need to pull, and then I can pull those areas and tap down all the high areas as I pull the dents out. This is the tool we're going to use today. It's a Viver G90E. It's a welder that welds a tip onto a low area, and then you can slide hammer or pull it out. This tool I purchased off of Amazon about a year ago, and it's worked out really well. It's paid for itself over and over again. It's not the perfect tool, but for similar tools, you're going to pay from $1,500 to $2,000, and this one was under $300. So I believe it is a good value for the money, and if you're interested in any of the tools I use in this video or materials, I'll leave links down in the description. Now I'm using my Astro belt sander to grind the paint off of those low areas. Now we're able to weld to those areas, pull out the dent, and we'll tap down the high areas as we pull. And we may slide hammer some of the dents out as well. The G90E is a 110 volt machine. I do have to ground it, so you see I have the ground down there in the right hand corner. And now I'll just weld into the center of the dent, and we'll tap down the high areas around that dent, because when a dent is created, it's going to raise the metal around it. So we'll weld into the center and pull or slide hammer that dent out. Another tool we're using today is a fine cut slapping file. I'm going to use this to go over that guide coat and show us any high or low areas. You can also use this in conjunction with the G90E as you're pulling out a dent. You slap down the high areas around it. You can also use it with a hammer and hammer down any high areas. That's going to spread out the blow of the hammer so you don't create any dents when you're hammering down the high areas. I think it goes without saying that you don't really need any of these tools. As long as you have a hammer and dolly or a spoon, then you're going to be fine. Now, these tools are just going to make your job easier and make you more efficient at repairing a dent. You can always push the dent out from the backside as long as you have access. Now, you don't always have access to the backside of a panel, so you may have to use a glue pulling system. And like I said, there's some cheap ones on Amazon that work perfectly fine. They're not going to hold up really well, but some of these tools are relatively inexpensive. You want to have a good hammer, pick hammer. I would say a spoon or a file like this one. I prefer the file if you're just starting out. That's going to work well because it does serve several different purposes. You can use it as a slapper. You can use it as a metal file. Here I'm using the file and the hammer to flatten out this metal. This spreads out the blow of the hammer so I don't create any dents with the hammer, and it levels out that metal so we can prepare it for filler. Here we have a low area with some high metal around it. So what you're going to see me do is use the G90E to pull out the low area. Then I'll metal file it down to see how it's coming out and how that metal is straightening out. And I'll continue working this metal until we get it straight and ready for filler. Check it out. With the proper tools and techniques, you can literally straighten any dent. This dent is pretty much gone. There's a few little waves and imperfections. I went ahead and sanded it with some 80 grit sandpaper, and then we're going to clean it with some isopropyl alcohol to get it ready for some filler. And if you want to learn how to straighten a dent using body filler, check out one of these videos now. I appreciate each and every one of you watching, and we'll see you next time on Garage Noise.